Today on the show, you and I discuss how you spent your childhood summers and how fake news is turning all of us in America into George Costanza.
Can't you see? Everyone! They're here already! You're next!
Let's go!
Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled, and a new future is born!
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
You know, we are becoming a nation of George Costanzas, and it's not a healthy thing. Now, if you've listened to the show for any length of time, you know I'm a massive, massive Seinfeld fan. And I kind of feel as though if you listen to this show for any length of time, you too are probably something of a Seinfeld fan. Just makes sense. But if you're not familiar with Jerry Seinfeld and his erstwhile cohort, George Costanza, all of them are on Hulu now. I think you can watch every last episode. I owned every last episode. I had the DVD of every last episode, but I got them on Hulu so I could binge watch them digitally. But we are becoming a nation of George Costanzas. We are. Oh, wait, this is actually kind of interesting. You know how I got to be such a huge Seinfeld fan? If you're like a lot of people, you probably watched Seinfeld when it was airing during the 90s. Me, I discovered Seinfeld a little later because I'd grown up in England, and Seinfeld was a thing in England, but nowhere near what it was over here. And I had horrible, horrible insomnia. My Seinfeld obsession came from my insomnia. So really, I suppose I have my insomnia to thank for one of my favorite things in my life. So I like Seinfeld. Seinfeld was cool, but I didn't really get into it until I moved to America and got a whole bunch of Seinfeld videotapes. I inherited Seinfeld videotapes. Now, if you're like me, you never cared for the DVD. Everybody else had DVDs. I wasn't into it. DVDs were such a hassle to me. I went straight from VCR to streaming. DVDs, I mean, I had a DVD player, but I was never one of those people with a collection of DVDs. And I think it had to do with being a guy in a band. And wherever you go, if you're a guy in a band, people hand you CDs. Or at least they did back in the day. And you amassed this massive collection of CDs, and they were really cumbersome. They were really heavy, and then you were left with all the jewel cases, and it was a big hassle, and storage was difficult. And I'm sure in some landfill somewhere in Long Island, there exist garbage bags of old jewel cases that I left behind when my CD collection became something I put into a booklet and carried with me. So I didn't like DVDs. I liked videotapes. And the other thing that annoyed me about DVDs, I feel like I was completely alone on this one, but that whole title screen thing where you had to wait for it to load up and scene selection, and oh God, just put it in and play. Why must everything be so complicated? Oh, and then DVDs, sometimes the audio didn't sync up with the video. That was annoying. And then you had to start it over again and go through the whole scene selection play bit. Forget it, I say, forget it. I was happy to have my video cassettes. And the thing that I liked about Seinfeld was it was great for falling asleep to. Now, as an insomniac, I struggled. I struggled every single night to get to sleep. And I like to watch TV. I like sitcoms. But the problem was, and if you've ever had problems sleeping, then I'm sure you relate to this. Commercials, I don't know why they do this, but they do this. Commercials are played louder than the actual show. And it's just such an obnoxious thing. But if you're trying to fall asleep watching TV and a commercial comes on, you wake right the hell up, and it's unbelievably annoying. Or if you are watching TV and one episode goes to the next one with a DVD, like the way I used to have with a DVD player, and this was one of the things that made me give up on the DVD, it would play the theme song again, or it'd go back to the title screen where the theme song would play. And a lot of TV shows had these really prolonged, loud, obnoxious theme songs, like the theme song from Friends. I never have to hear that again as long as I lived. I actually really enjoyed the show, but the theme song was so freaking loud. So there I would be on my way to Nappy Land trying to get something familiar and comfortable and amusing to watch to lull me off into a false sense of security so I could get those ever elusive Z's. And then, so no one told you, cha-cha-cha-cha. Oh, it was the worst. It would wake me up. But what I discovered was this. Seinfeld and Frasier, and I love Frasier too. I've watched them over and over again. But Seinfeld and Frasier had very quiet, sedate theme songs that didn't go on for very long. That was it. So I loved Seinfeld for that reason. I mean, I liked the TV show, what I'd seen of it, but I liked the quiet theme song. And a buddy of mine was like, oh, you're getting into Seinfeld? I was like, yeah, it's great. It actually helps me fall asleep. And man, the shows are so funny. And he's like, well, I have every episode of Seinfeld on video cassette with the commercials edited out. And I was like, oh my gosh, you solved my sleep problems. And he just gave them to me because he'd seen them so many times and he'd moved on to DVD. So I had this collection of video cassettes where a friend of mine had lovingly, from the television show, edited all that stuff out. And I watched Seinfeld hundreds and hundreds of times, and I still do. And every single time I watch it, it gets smarter and funnier, and it's just the absolute greatest. But we are, and I'll tell you why next, we are, sadly, becoming a nation of George Costanzas. And it has to do with our concept of the truth.
Real radio.
104.1.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
So if you're like me, you love Seinfeld more than pretty much anything. Seinfeld's the absolute greatest. I think my favorite interview that I've ever gotten to do around here. Ooh, it's a tough one. I mean, we've had incredible, amazing, humongous musicians on the show. The guys from Metallica have been on. We've talked to Dave Grohl of Foo Fighters. We've talked to the Red Hot Chili Peppers. We've talked to Cheap Trick as they were going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We've talked to ZZ Top's legendary Billy Gibbons. We've talked to everybody. We've talked to, man, a real bucket list worth of people. Tom Morello of Rage Against the Machine, Chuck D of Public Enemy, the guys from Cypress Hill. The list goes on and on. All these people that I'm privileged to have spoken to. People that made music that were a humongous part of my upbringing. But I think my favorite two interviews, probably Jim Breuer and Spike Feresten. Jim Breuer, everybody knows Jim Breuer. Goat Boy, SNL, that guy. Unbelievably hilarious. And for me, I kind of grew up listening to Jim Breuer be interviewed on Howard Stern. And I would always dream of being part of that conversation. And man, having Jim Breuer come on the show and be as awesome as he was, that was, well, A, he was hilarious. B, he gave an amazing interview. And C, it was sort of like a lifelong level up goal unlocked when I got to have that conversation that I've been picturing myself having every single time I heard him on the radio listening to Howard Stern growing up. That was great. But Spike Feresten, Seinfeld writer who came on the show and talked about how, well, he lived a life of risk-taking. He went to college and he just bailed on college because he wanted to work in TV. Didn't know how he was going to work in TV, but wound up getting staffed on the David Letterman show after he left his hometown of Boston. Because this is what happened. He saw someone with a David Letterman jacket in a bar. Said, hey, can you get me a job there? And they're like, actually, I kind of sort of can. So he got an internship on the David Letterman show and he got staffed there. And eventually he became staffed on Seinfeld and he wrote some of the greatest, most iconic moments of television ever. And he was only too happy to come on the show and share these stories of how the true story of the soup Nazi became an episode of Seinfeld. And it was just magical, absolutely magical. And if you're a Seinfeld fan and you weren't around listening to the show at that time, do yourself a favor, go back to the podcast. You can get them on iHeart and Spreaker and iTunes and all these different places, but listen to the podcast of me chatting with Spike Feresten, because if you're a Seinfeld fan, I'm getting phlegm talking about it. It's absolute gold. One of the greatest moments of my life, and an interview that, if you even vaguely appreciate Seinfeld, is just, it's gold, Jerry, gold. Anyways, I think we've established that I'm a fanatical Seinfeld fan. And if you are as well, you've done this. You've always kind of pictured which member of the Seinfeld cast would you be? Would you be Jerry? Would you be George? Would you be Elaine? Would you be Kramer? I've got a couple friends that are like, oh, I'd like to think this wasn't true, but I know I'm Kramer. And I've got plenty of friends that are Elaine. I used to think I was Jerry. I was pretty convinced I was Jerry. Everything irritated me. I had sort of a small apartment that I lived in. I didn't do stand-up, but I went on the radio every single night. There were just all these very close parallels between me and Jerry Seinfeld that I actually saw before I was a huge fan of the show. And somebody said to me a couple times, this is why you like this guy so much. You're essentially living his life. You don't have any concerns beyond Superman and breakfast cereal, and you go do a job that's not really a job. And then you come back to this apartment, frittering your life away. Meaningless. I was like, oh, hello, Newman. But I used to be convinced I was Jerry. Now I think in my old age, I'm becoming George. Maybe that's the beauty of the show. There's a little bit of us in every single one of those characters. But I'm a little concerned. I think that we as Americans are becoming more and more George Costanza than we've ever been before. And not in the dogged and charming way, but in a way that is very unsettling. In a way that has to do with our relationship with the truth. If you're a Seinfeld fan, you probably know exactly where this is going. But, well, for those that aren't necessarily familiar with the line, let's discuss for a moment. Let's take a listen to George Costanza explaining his relationship with the concept of the truth.
Jerry, just remember, it's not a lie if you believe it.
There you go. It's not a lie if you believe it. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that this rings true. If you pay any sort of attention to what's going on with the political process in our country and the relationship that people, specifically politicians, appear to have with the truth, well, it's kind of come to a George Costanza-esque point. There's plenty of folks in the media and in the world of politics that, like I said, have a flirtatious relationship with the truth. Have a relationship with the truth is something that you can bend at will to your convenience. Have a relationship with the truth that can be summed up by George Costanza when he said, let's hear it again.
Jerry, just remember, it's not a lie if you believe it.
And I got to tell you, the expression fake news, I hate it. I can't stand it. It seems to become a blanket excuse for everything. Did you do this? No, I didn't do that. Well, I saw you do it. Did you eat the cookie? Didn't eat the cookie. Fake news. Alternative facts. It seems like that's plausible deniability to literally any accusation that can ever be leveled at anyone in 2018. You can just go, fake news, alternative facts. And people are bizarrely conditioned to accept that. But the case with NBC this past week just gone by, well, this would have to be the epitome of fake news. We'll get into it next.
For more stimulation and less irritation, 9 out of 10 doctors choose KPRC AM 950, Houston's more stimulating talk radio.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radio Land. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah. Bring this on, come on.
Let's just, you and I, listen again to George Costanza so we know exactly what it is we're turning into.
Jerry, just remember, it's not a lie if you believe it.
Yeah. That's who we as Americans are on the slippery slope to becoming. That's who a lot of Americans have already become. Politicians, members of the media. I'm looking at you. I hate the term fake news. Drives me crazy. Do you remember when you first heard the term fake news? It was sort of hijacked. Fake news was, well, it was a fancy way, well, not a fancy way, but it was a way of describing clickbait. There would be fake news stories on Facebook designed to make you go, what the hell is this? Click on it and go, oh, this is misleading. This is not true. The headline is false, or this story isn't real. This is fake news. Fake news was, you ever read The Onion? They're hilarious. they were hilarious parody news stories, things that clearly didn't happen. And occasionally, the line was a little blurry, where people saw something, didn't realize it was from The Onion or something like that. A fake news site that absolutely admitted to being a fake news site. And went click, oh, now I feel slightly misled, and I feel stupid because, well, I didn't realize it was The Onion, and now I'm running around telling my friends this silly stuff. Oh my gosh. A record label rep told me once, now I don't know if you're familiar with the music of Papa Roach, but if you are, this will make sense. This is a perfect example of somebody getting caught out by fake news. A record label rep once, who was trying to get me to play some band, was talking about Papa Roach, and he was like, they're such a great band, but I think their singer's having some health problems. And I actually kind of know Jacoby, the lead singer of Papa Roach, and I was like, I don't think so, man. I think he's okay. Gosh, I hope he's okay. Why do you think that? He's like, well, I saw this article. And I was like, what? He's like, well, apparently his vision's going, and he's not gonna be able to tour and stuff. Like, he's just having all sorts of like neurological difficulties, and like I said, his hearing is going and his vision is going, and I was like, what the hell are you talking about? Send me the article. And he sent me a link to an article. I was like, what the hell is this website? I've never seen it before. And it was something like, Papa Roach singer faces health crisis. And there was a short article, and it said, Jacoby Shaddix, lead singer of Papa Roach, has gone on the record saying that he's losing his sight, losing his mind, wishes somebody would tell him he's fine, which is, of course, word for word his lyrics from the song Last Resort. I was like, you're so stupid. You don't recognize this is like word for word the lyrics from one of the biggest songs they've ever had? I was like, this is a fake news website. You moron, you idiot. You wasted your time and mine. And now you're telling people that this band that are in the, that are fit as fiddles are having health problems. Whoever the hell you told this to in the record industry, you better go back and undo it. Too freaking sweet. And he's like, oh, I feel so stupid. That's fake news. And that was designed to generate clicks. People are a little smarter now. People have gotten wise to the idea of clickbait. People understand that something that has a scandalous headline that you see on Facebook is just designed to make you click on it. So you go to the website, give the website owner a click, and then help them raise the price of their digital advertising. Or get a referral fee or something like that. We've gotten a little more sophisticated. But for a while, lots of people were falling victim to fake news. A fake news headline would drive you to a website where you could buy some sort of product. And that would mean that some sort of internet marketing company would get a referral fee because, hey, look, we got somebody to click on your thing. That's fake news. It was not artful. It was not clever. But then fake news became this sort of this watchword, largely due to Donald Trump saying we really have to do something about the fake news. And then he realized, if somebody says something that I don't agree with, or if somebody says something about me that I want to deny, I don't have to say that wasn't me, I didn't do it, I deny, I disavow, okay? All I got to do is say it's fake news. Ooh, and now I can say there's a war being waged against me by the media who want to spread scandal and fake news about me. Fake news is a term that sort of became hijacked, and people went, fake news is wrong, fake news is bad. Fake news used to be The Onion. The folks over at The Onion went, well, we were fake news, but we were the laughing, jovial, fun kind of fake news that everybody knew was fake. Now we're the devil and we're trying to, oh man, what the hell? What the hell? And so I hate fake news. I hate the term fake news. I hate the fact that fake news has become this blanket escape from any sense of culpability about anything. Accountability means less and less in the year 2018, and a big part of that has to do with the term fake news. I remember a little while ago, one of the radio stations was having, one of the radio stations that I work with, I'm not on this station, but I'm down the hall from them, and they got some lousy ratings, and the program director was there with his head in his hands going, what do I do? I'm like, just tell them these ratings aren't real. He's like, what do you mean? Everybody questions polls. Everybody questions all this sort of stuff. Everybody questions data now. Just say just say this set of ratings data is fake news and alternative facts. It seems to work for our president. Go for it. So fake news has become this blanket excuse for so many things. But what's interesting is it's almost like some people who are not necessarily purveyors of fake news have kind of gotten in on it, realized by reverse engineering what the Onion did, that saying things that are not necessarily true can drive stuff to your otherwise reputable television network's website. And you look good when your article gets clicks. You do. You look good when a story you write gets traction. You do. Everyone's desperate for clicks. Everyone's desperate for views. Everyone's desperate for all of these things because their very jobs and careers hang in the line. So if you can get something to go viral, if you can get something to jump off with an incendiary headline, you are going to be on your way to, well, the bank. And so it's almost like the shiesty practitioners of fake news that were making money hand over fist in a day where traditional news media outlets were dying a death because they weren't equipped to swim in the digital waters. It's almost like they looked at what shiesty organizations that were just sort of marketing companies in disguise were doing with regard to fake news and went, let's get in on that action. And what happened this past week just gone by? Look, anybody that argues against Trump, anybody that argues against things like Trump's Supreme Court pick, anybody that has a problem with Trump, I 100% endorse and support your ability and desire to go after Trump and the Trump administration in any way you want to. This is, after all, America, where speech is free. Go for it. However, and I'm not a big fan of Trump in any way, shape, or okay, I'm not a fan of Trump in any way, shape, or form. But you do yourself and your argument more harm than good when you're responsible for something like this. It's the epitome of fake news. And, well, I believe that the folks over at NBC were listening to George Costanza and thinking to themselves,
Jerry, just remember, it's not a lie if you believe it.
I believe they were thinking that to themselves when they peddled this conspiracy theory about Justice Kennedy cutting a secret deal with Trump back in November to have Kavanaugh replace him on the Supreme Court. Now, that report was based on a single anonymous source that heard about the supposed deal third hand. After being called out, the NBC reporter backtracked on her, and I quote, note the sarcastic air quotes around this word, report, and admitted that her source didn't actually have any information on whether the president talked to Kennedy about a possible replacement. This was supposed to be a bombshell, a supposed bombshell. It was gaining a lot of traction. NBC's Leanne Caldwell reported that Kennedy and Trump had been in negotiations for a month over Kennedy's replacement, or months even. That's a big statement. Once Kennedy received assurances that it would be Kavanaugh, his former law clerk, Kennedy felt comfortable retiring, according to a source who was told told the discussion. So this big bombshell, and it is a bombshell if it worked out to be true, Leanne Caldwell from NBC reported that Kennedy and Trump had been basically buddy-buddy in negotiations for months over Kennedy's replacement. And once Kennedy got word that it would be Kavanaugh, who was somebody he had a past with, he was like, okay, cool, I can retire now. This is not above board stuff. This is fate of the nation stuff being decided with buddy-buddy backroom deals. And that obviously isn't okay. So if that was true, it would be huge. It would be huge, unfortunate, somewhat typical DC swap stuff, I suppose. But scandalous and unbelievably wrong, nevertheless. It's the sort of thing that I would imagine goes on an awful lot, but not something that you catch somebody in all that often. Almost immediately after the Caldwell scoop surfaced, Trump judicial advisor Leonard Leo called the report garbage. He said that this is insulting to Justice Kennedy. Caldwell later peddled in a following tweet, to be clear, this is from one source, and we don't have any info on whether or not POTUS talked to Kennedy about a possible replacement. Yeah. Just to be clear, that thing that I said was true is not true. That, my friend, is fake news. I've got the scoop of the freaking century. You won't believe the buddy-buddy backroom deal that the president made with the exiting member of the Supreme Court about his replacement. Yeah. Hell of a job, right? She peddled this conspiracy theory based on a single anonymous source that heard about the supposed deal third hand without even attempting to verify. She went, oh, that's clicks, that's views, that's my career. And basically misled the American public for the sake of some bucks, for the sake of some career advancement. That, my friend, is fake news. And like I said, it's almost like traditional news media outlets saw, like all these shiesty internet marketing companies, saw companies like The Onion, saw 15-year-olds with a YouTube channel getting way more clicks than they were based on some shiesty tactics, and went, we can do that, we have to do that. NBC won't survive unless we do that. My career won't survive unless we do that. So let's, well, everyone's doing it. Why don't we do it? You're the news media, at least you're supposed to be. There was a time, apparently, back in the day, not in your lifetime, not in my lifetime. Oh, I don't know how old you are, but probably not in your lifetime. But there was a time back in the day where television news was America's standard repository of truth and information. Nobody watched the news back in the day and went, well, you got to remember what channel this is on. No, they went, that's the news. There wasn't conjecture. There wasn't infighting. There wasn't editorializing of the narrative. There was a fact followed by another fact. At least that's what I hear. That's how the old folks I talked to about this romanticized that glory day of news television. Now, in a desperate bid to compete with teenagers that are really good at Snapchat, folks like Leanne Caldwell have become, well, people with only flirtatious relationships with the truth. The truth is, they need to get some clicks. They need to get some traction. Later in the day, Caldwell deleted her tweet saying, I deleted this tweet because it incorrectly implies a transactional nature in Kennedy's replacement. I am told by a source who is not directly part of the talks that Kennedy provided President Trump with a list of acceptable replacements. Yeah. Now here's the thing. Instead of journalists getting all bent out of shape with Trump for calling them out as fake news, maybe you should go back and do a little fact checking. Maybe you shouldn't be so hot to trot to get the scoop. Maybe you should concern yourself with bringing Americans the news and the truth, or at least as close to the truth as you can get it. Is it any wonder that Donald Trump is able to discredit the media so quickly and easily? Is it any wonder that our press, which is a vital part of our freedom, is now compromised in the eyes of us as Americans? They got to do better. Plain and simple, they got to do better.
Sometimes you just know you're done. You're longing for that shining sun. You walk these streets most every day. You're waiting to get washed away. Radio. Radio. 104.1.
Now, more AD on the radio.
Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you my musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD, and can't nobody rock a body better than me. Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you a musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD, and can't nobody rock a body better than me.
Oh, hey, do you know what day it is? Do you know what glorious, glorious day it is? Maybe if you look at the date, you'll figure it out. But if you're in the part of America where these establishments are that are being celebrated today, then you, my friend, are in line for something delicious and free. What are we talking about? We'll get into it in just a little bit. Right now, though, we started the show talking about the brilliance of Seinfeld, and, well, we do that a lot on this show. So let's continue, shall we? Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee is back. No, I haven't watched any of it yet. I'm saving it up for the weekend. I want to have a moment where that's all I do. I binge watch the new season of Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee on Netflix. I'm so stoked for this, but I love this. I love this. This makes me unable to wait. Ellen DeGeneres is on the new season of Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, and she told Jerry Seinfeld about the first stand-up routine she ever did. For a beginner, it's pretty good. Even Jerry was impressed.
Someone asked me to do something to help raise money, and someone said, you get up on stage and be funny. And so I got up on stage.
Right.
I brought a bag, a Burger King Whopper and fries and a shake, and I started a sentence. I said, I'm so sorry. This is the first time I've ever been on stage, and I'm so nervous, so I didn't eat all day, and I realized that on the way over, so I stopped to get this. I hope you don't mind. And then I started a sentence saying, I don't know if you've ever noticed, but when people, and then I took a bite, and then I put my finger up and said, you know how people do that? Like, why start a sentence? And then, so I literally ate the entire, I started the same sentence over and over again and finished the entire Whopper and fries, and then said, I'm so sorry, that's my time.
That is a funny bit.
That's what I did for the first time.
Very clever. Very good. She was often known as, I guess, the female Jerry Seinfeld because of the observational nature of her humor. And, well, now she's just kind of become her own thing. I suppose it makes sense when you're, reminiscent of literally the biggest, most successful version of a stand-up comic at that time. Everyone's going to want to be compared to Seinfeld, but she was. I don't know. I don't think Jerry ever did bits with food. Oh, I got to play you something else, though. This is apropos of nothing. But if you're like me, you don't watch talent competitions. Like, televised singing competitions are everything that is wrong with not only America, but the music industry. So I want no part of them whatsoever. Unless there is an unbelievably cute dog involved. And, well, did you catch this clip? America's Got Talent had a singing dog called Oscar on the other night. It was more like he howled to the music on key. He wasn't perfect, and he got better in the second half. He's not actually singing the melody, but he's harmonizing, if you can believe it. It's freaking great. Loved every second of it. Check this out.
He's on key.
Great. Well, if you're like me, you think it's freaking great. That was one of those moments where, look, Millhouse, my puppy, he gets plenty of hugs, but I saw that. And it was just, I was struck. I mean, look, obviously, this is sort of the exploitation of a parlor trick that a dog learned how to do. But we have these moments. I can't believe I'm getting weepy about a dog singing on America's Got Talent, but it really made me go, man, dogs are the greatest. What have we done to deserve dogs? Here are these things that have been put on earth, and all they want to do is love us and protect us and be our friend. That's all they want. If dogs aren't a sign that there's not someone out there looking out for us, I don't know what would be. I think dogs, if you're one of those people that are looking for proof of God, might be the closest thing we're ever going to get to proof of God. However they got here, I think they are the greatest gift that we have ever been given. And I know, like I said, cheap parlor trick put on television. Some people might see it as animal exploitation or whatever. But the thing that struck me about it was that, man, we all have those moments. If you've got a dog, you have those moments with your dog. You have those moments where there's just things that you do together. You have routines. You got stuff that you do. I have a little studio where I live, and I spend an awful lot of time at night working in it. And every single night, me and Millhouse have the same routine. He falls asleep on his bed right by the fireplace. Not that the fire is going during the summer, but it's just where he likes to sleep. I think he feels like it gives him the ability to keep an eye on the whole house. And by the way, Millhouse is behind me right now. I work from my studio at home a lot, and so he's with me for every single one of the show. So if it feels like there's a warm and fuzzy presence that really wants to know that you're okay and maybe wants to hang out and cuddle and play fetch, that's part of this show, that's because there absolutely is. But we all have these things, we all have these routines, we all have these lives that we build with our dogs. And like I said, I go into my studio, I work late, and then the sprinklers go off right around 2 a.m. and Millhouse, for whatever reason, screams bloody murder. You would think, right? You would think he's one of the most intelligent dogs I've ever met. I think dogs are so much smarter than we give them credit for. I mean, Millhouse knows probably 15 to 20 words of human. I have yet to learn a single word of dog, so there you go. They're smarter than we give them credit for. They're smarter than we think. But for whatever reason, Millhouse still hasn't figured out that the sprinklers that come on at 2 a.m. are not the end of the world. So they'll go on at 2, and he'll scream bloody murder. And I'll come and get him. And he'll be like, okay, so we're going to go hang in here now? And he'll hop up on the couch behind me and fall asleep. It's a moment we share every single day, day in, day out. We've got our routines. And I think that was what struck me about Oscar the singing dog on America's Got Talent. Not the fact that he could vaguely howl in tune with a song that most of us marched to at graduation, or that brides walked down the aisle to. No, it was the fact that every last one of us that has a dog has a special magic moment, a thing that we do, several things that we do that we share with our dog. And for that we should be eternally grateful. Hey, I forgot to tell you what you could get for free today. We'll do that next.
Leave the stimulation to the professionals.
Everyone is so smart.
KBRC, more stimulating talk radio.
There's something happening here, and you should know what it is. The dumbing up of America. Now, more AD on the radio.
So do you know what you can get for free today? Have you figured it out yet? Oh, man. Look at the date. What's the date? It's the 11th of July. What's that? 7-Eleven? Yeah. Today, if you haven't taken advantage of it already, is Free Slurpee Day at 7-Eleven. Delicious. July 11th, 7-Eleven. Free Slurpee Day at 7-Eleven in case you want to stand in a line for a half hour to save $1.39. I don't know. I've gotten free Slurpees many a day when there hasn't been a line. I think you just can't go early in the day. This year, 7-Eleven has gone even further. I mean, not that much further, but a little further. They're also selling hot dogs for $1 and giving out free sodas when you buy a Snickers or Cheez-Its, and rolling out their new Captain Crunch berry. What is it? Captain Crunch. Ooh, Captain Crunch berry Slurpee flavor. A Captain Crunch flavored Slurpee. Oh, man. Well, be still my enlarged heart. I would like to try that. That sounds really freaking good. You know, it does not sound really freaking good. This is a crazy amount of tragedy. It just blows my mind. I can't even imagine the 1-2 nightmare punch simultaneously of finding out that your spouse was cheating on you and that they were dead. But that's exactly what happened to a man in New Jersey this past Monday just gone by. We'll get into it after we take a look at the events of today in our segment, My Witness News. George Clooney is apparently doing better after being taken by ambulance to a hospital in Italy after a car hit him on his scooter. Yes. Apparently, he only suffered minor injuries. Thankfully, the effortless charm is completely intact, and he was released after a few hours once security got a group of fanatical nurses to let go of him. Yeah. Worst wreck Clooney's been in since Monuments Men. Due to production delays, get this, Harrison Ford will be 79 years old when Indiana Jones comes out in 2021. Yeah. If you think Liam Neeson is too old to be an action star, maybe you haven't heard of this dude, Harrison Ford. The deal is this. Disney announced yesterday that Indiana Jones 5 is being pushed back to July 9th, 2021 due to some script rewrites. It's 4 days before Harrison's 79th birthday. He's 75 now. The filming hasn't even begun yet. Amazing, right? he's going to be 79 when he... And you know what? I understand the script rewrites. If he's going to be 79 when it comes out, I just can't imagine there's too many more Indiana Jones movies left in him. I mean, at age 80 plus, playing Indiana Jones has got to be... Well, hey, why not? Look at my limiting belief, prejudging what Harrison Ford is capable of doing, and imagine... Look, this is probably the last one. Giorgio Armani turns 84 today. He's considered to be the face of Italian culture. Yeah, Giorgio Armani turned 84 today. He's considered to be the face of Italian culture. Just like Snooki from the Jersey Shore is considered to be the ass. Roseanne Barr. Oh, man. Roseanne Barr was going to do an interview. Did you see this? She was going to do an interview with herself to post on YouTube. Like, I think she knew that if anybody interviewed her, there would be tough questions and she wouldn't be able to control the narrative and it would be a lousy look. So I think she'd come up with this sort of piece of conceptual performance art where she was going to interview herself on YouTube. I guess it's easier than making a statement, but really it's making a statement. And I think she realized that a lot of people wouldn't go for that. So yeah, she's declined to do it. Roseanne Barr has canceled plans to conduct an interview with herself and post it on YouTube. So there you have it. Even Roseanne doesn't want to work with Roseanne. An American Girl doll movie is in the works. American Girl dolls? Those are like a big deal. I bought some of those for a little cousin for Christmas once, and I didn't know what the hell they were. I knew that my cousin wanted them, and I went to the store, and oh man, I took my very life in my hands trying to get that. I'm trying to get an American Girl doll for a kid cousin. I think I still have some scars, but yeah, an American Girl doll movie is in the works. Donald Trump, I believe, immediately accused a Mexican girl doll of trying to steal her role. Brett Kavanaugh continues to be in the news. Brett Kavanaugh, the name on everybody's lips. Brett Kavanaugh, Donald Trump's pick for the Supreme Court, was asked about his interpretation of the Constitution, and he basically said there is no interpretation. Brett Kavanaugh has gone on the record saying that he thinks the Constitution should be interpreted exactly as it's written. You know, I kind of feel the same way about the recipe for toast. Stop adding avocado, millennials. What the hell? Southwest Airlines, they are revising their policy. They will no longer serve peanuts. Yeah, if you enjoyed airplane peanuts, Southwest, not so much your airline of choice anymore. Southwest Airlines is revising their policy and will no longer serve airline peanuts. Meanwhile, sadly, no change to their policy of capping off flights with tone-deaf flight attendants bursting into painfully unfunny parody songs. Couldn't do anything about that while you're at it? Okay. Hey, did you celebrate the national holiday yesterday? Oh, yeah. Yesterday was a national holiday. Which one? Well, it was a holiday to celebrate a specific animal. Yeah. Yesterday was Cow Appreciation Day. Cow Appreciation Day. Now, I was, of course, tempted to make cow puns. But I knew that would have been met with utter disgust. And, well, I don't like to put you in a bad mood. Who am I trying to kid? That's total bull. Me not taking an opportunity to make cow puns, that would be unheard of. I like to keep the puns moving and milk them for all they're worth. All right. We should probably steer clear of the rest of this conversation. Hey, did you see which 90s musical icon is getting ready to turn 55? Yeah, getting ready to turn 55 years old at the beginning of August. This is a guy whose songs you've heard over and over and over again. Well, there's one song specifically. You've danced to this song over and over again, probably inappropriately, at many times in your life, after having had a few too many, or just because you hear his music and you just cannot control what your nether regions do, and you must go for it. Unbelievably, Sir Mix-a-Lot is about to turn 55 years old in a week or so. Yeah, Sir Mix-a-Lot is about to turn 55. He's at the age where some days he can't remember if he likes big butts or not. Sir Mix-a-Lot, about to turn 55, or at least as he's called these days, Sir Mix-a-Lot of Metamucil. All right, you've been watching a ton of movies over the holidays. There's something about movies. There's something about going to the movie theater. Do you equate the movie theater with summertime? I think we all do. It goes back to being a kid. Your mom, we talked about this on the show a little while ago. your mom or parents in general, they love having their kids home for the summer vacation for 13 days. And after 13 days, they actually start to get kind of stressed out about it and wish their kid would go to school, because you're taking responsibility for your child's enrichment. And a lot of parents feel that's unbelievably stressful. They worry that they're not doing the right thing. So consequently, you're always looking for ways to keep your kids stimulated and engaged and, moving forward in that journey of life that you're supposed to be shepherding them along on. And after a certain amount of time during summer vacation, you run out of activities. You run out of things that you can suggest they do. So when they get old enough, you like to drop them off places. Man, I had this one summertime that I spent with my friend. I was growing up in England, but he lived in America. I got to go spend the summer with him. And his mom, I think, after sort of going, what am I going to do with these kids, when I could just get them passes to, I think it was Six Flags. Yeah, we got Six Flags passes all summer long. And they weren't even that expensive. I mean, at the time, it seemed like all the money in the world, but they were super cheap. And so every day almost that I was there staying with this kid all summer long, we would go ride roller coasters. And it was the greatest freaking thing ever. But I think parents look for those opportunities to drop their kids off somewhere. And it's sort of like reality with training wheels. In a way, when you're dropping your kid off at the mall, when you're dropping your kid off at the amusement park, it's kind of sort of like an enriching experience for them, because they're learning how to make their way outside of the home without your constant guidance and supervision. It's sort of like reality with training wheels. And maybe it's a misguided thing, but I think parents tend to feel a little bit safer dropping their kids off at the mall than they would the middle of the street. Like if you're a suburban kid, your mom would drop you off at the mall and you would go do whatever it is kids do at the mall. If you're a city kid like me, your parents were a little uneasy about dropping you off in the center of London where they didn't have shopping malls. It was just sort of like you're going to walk around Camden Market and all sorts of horrible things could happen. But amusement parks, shopping malls, right or wrong, I think parents see those as a bit of a rite of passage. Reality with training wheels, a chance for a child to build some independence. And I think that because of that element, movie theaters are the same thing. I'm going to drop my kids off at the movie. I'm going to pick them up after it's done. And I know they're going to be in there. They're not going to be going crazy places or do anything. They're just going to go in, pay for their ticket, go in and watch the movie. And it'll be a little experience. They will take the money out of their pocket. They will purchase a ticket. They will buy their snacks. I'm doing the right thing. I'm not absolving myself of the responsibility of raising a child. I'm helping them on their merry way. So getting dropped off at the movies is a big deal. And if you're like a lot of people I know, you just link up summertime and movies in your head. And if you're like me, if you're like a lot of people, summertime means going to the movies. We don't have that summer vacation anymore. We're no longer wondering what to do with ourselves. Do you ever wonder what to do with yourself? I can't remember. It's funny because summertime hit and I remember being a kid and I remember inevitably you're like, Mom, I'm bored. And that's probably what stresses parents the hell out. I'm bored. Well, run around, do something, color, read, figure it out. I can't remember the last time I went, I'm bored. I can't remember the last time I went, I have time and nothing to fill it. The lazy, crazy, hazy days of youth and summer. How, as an adult, you wind up missing them, don't you? But it doesn't matter that you don't get time off. Doesn't matter that you don't have time to spare. You still kind of want to go see movies during the summer if you're like me. It's just something that you've linked up to summertime ever since you were a kid. But if you're like me, and I am going somewhere with this, if you're like me, and a lot of people I've talked to about this, you've been looking at movie listings recently and you've been going, wait a second, another sequel, another spinoff, is nothing original anymore? Like you're thinking about where you're going to spend your hard-earned movie-going dollar on, and you wind up going, no, I'm not going to do any of it. It's all rehashed garbage. And if you feel like there's nothing original out there anymore, let me tell you this. You're right, there's not. Do you know how many sequels have been released in 2018? How many sequels? Have a guess. Got your guess? I mean, think about all the times that you went to the movies this year. Think about all the times you picked up whatever ticket buying app you use called Movie Phone. Hello. What would you like to go see? Is that still a thing? I don't think it is anymore. How many seem to be sequels? 19! Yeah. 19 sequels were released this year. The good news is none of these sequels contain the words Pirates of the or Caribbean. So there's that. All right. Before we run out of time, we should probably talk about this. This is just... I can't even imagine what the 1-2 nightmare punch of simultaneously finding out that your wife was cheating on you and finding out that she's dead would be like. It's unthinkable. It's insane. It's unimaginable. But it happened to a guy in Newark, New Jersey this past Monday just gone by. He got home and he found his 39-year-old wife dead in the garage with their 56-year-old mechanic. And it turns out she'd offered to pay the guy for his repair work with sex, but they did it in a garage with a car running, so they both died of carbon monoxide poisoning. Yikes. The cops are investigating. If you're like me, the cynical part of your mind immediately went to some sort of foul play being at work, but the cops are investigating. They say it looks like one giant, unbelievably tragic accident. That was an unfortunate way to end the show, but that's all the time we have. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll do it all over again. It'll be more uplifting than that. Have a good one. Stay in touch at ADSXE on Twitter and Instagram, or you can email me ad@iheartradio.com. Later.